Okay, so good afternoon and welcome to the 5th Brazil-Canada IST Forum focused on smart cities in Brazil, trends, challenges, and opportunities, organized by the Brazil-Canada Chamber of Commerce with the support of from Global Affairs Canada and Prima IP. So I'm Carolina Alberna, CEO of the Brazil-Canada Chamber of Commerce, and I'll be your co-MC here today. And to join me, I would like to invite Marcius Francischini, Trade Commissioner at the Consulate General of Canada in São Paulo, and the big force behind this event today as well. So first of all, Marcio, thank you for all your support in helping us put this program together. So this is not just a webinar, and I hope you're taking advantage of the networking features available for you today. Please don't be shy, scroll down to see who's also attending the event and connect away with fellow attendees and speakers. They're expecting you to. Just a couple housekeeping rules before we start. The presenters will be available to answer questions during the Q&A session in the end of the event. Please submit your questions during the event through the Q&A box. And just in case we run out of time, because we have a packed agenda here today, we will make sure that we answer the questions via email later. So without further ado, I would like to invite Marcelo Sarkis, Chair of the Brazil-Canada Chamber of Commerce IST Committee and founder and principal at Prima IP, to deliver the opening remarks. Marcelo, you have the mic.
Thank you, Carolina. Good afternoon, bon après-midi, boa tarde. For those that do not know me, I'm Marcelo Sarkis, former president of the BCCC and current chair of the Innovation, Science, and Technology Committee and founder of Prima IP. It is a pleasure to be here today at the 5th Brazil-Canada IST Forum, Smart Cities in Brazil. Exame, out of Brazil, in reporting the 2020 rankings of smart cities, recently stated, além de ser a maior cidade do país, São Paulo também é a mais inteligente e conectada do Brasil em 2020. William Regan, executivo do Urban Systems, responsável pelo ranking Connected Smart Cities, diz: quando a gente pensa em cidade inteligente, não é necessariamente tecnológica. É um eixo de mobilidade e acessibilidade, encurtar o distanciamento e criar conexões. A capital de Santa Catarina passou do 7º lugar em 2019 para a 2ª posição em 2020, com uma das maiores ascensões do ranking. The Brazilian Senate recently approved tax exemptions for connected telecommunications equipment used in the context of the Internet of Things, with the 4 core verticals of Brazil's IoT plan, including smart cities, healthcare, agribusiness, and manufacturing. Yesterday, the Brazilian government launched the Brazilian Charter for Smart Cities, a collaboration between the Ministry of Regional Development, Ministry of Science and Technology, and Ministry of Communications in partnership with Andes Project, a technical cooperation agreement between the governments of Brazil and Germany, with the collaboration of the German Cooperation Agency, which aims to assist in the construction of a national urban development strategy anchored in the economic, social, environmental tripod of sustainability. The objective of the Charter is to guide the agenda of smart cities for the coming years and help states and municipalities to formulate policies related to the issue. Stay tuned, as we will be providing more information about this initiative in the future. Today's program is divided into 4 blocks. First, we will discuss the Brazilian smart cities scenario, trends, challenges, and opportunities. Then we will hear from the public sector about their initiatives, followed by a few presentations relating to Brazilian and Canadian technologies and the innovation ecosystem for smart cities. And then we end the official program with some practical guidance in doing business in Brazil. J'ai quelques mots du co-président canadien du Comité Canada-Brésil sur la science, la technologie et l'innovation, Dr. Ted Hewitt. Dr. Hewitt says, for nearly a decade now, the Canada-Brazil Science, Technology, and Innovation Joint Committee has been working to implement the proposed actions of the Canada-Brazil Framework Agreement for cooperation on science, technology, and innovation ratified by both countries in 2011. The Joint Committee has met regularly since this time, alternatively in each country, to bring together stakeholders from across academia, the private sector, and government to remove barriers and encourage enhanced research between Brazil and Canada, designed to promote innovation beneficial to both countries and to enhance their joint competitiveness internationally. As a result, cooperation in a number of fields has increased markedly over the years in a variety of fields, from ocean research to nanotechnology, energy, and health. All of this has contributed greatly to the enhanced movement of people and ideas across the two countries, among students, researchers, civil servants, and entrepreneurs. And despite the pandemic, we're poised to do much more. As Canadian co-chair of the Joint Committee, Dr. Hewitt would like to congratulate the chair of the IST working group, myself, and the BCCC for its initiative in organizing this session on smart cities, representing yet another area of potential fruitful collaboration between our two countries. I look forward to the report emanating from this meeting, which I would be more than pleased to take back to the Joint Committee members at their next meeting planned for mid-spring in 2021. Thank you, Dr. Hewitt, for your words. Au nom de la BCCC, je souhaite reconnaître nos sponsors et partenaires. Vale, Export Development Canada, Prima IP, Sescombaro, Brookfield, London Mining, Votorantim Cimentos, and our partner, Global Affairs Canada, where we have today a representative, Bill McHarris, who has a few words to say. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Marcelo. Obrigado, and good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of the Minister of International Trade and Small Business, Mary Ng, I'd like to welcome you to the 5th Annual IST Forum, organized by the Brazil-Canada Chamber of Commerce. I see my colleague, Marcio Francisquin from Sao Paulo. Marcio, hello. Thank you for all your help in organizing today's event. There's a wonderful array of seminars and presentations for today's event that are focusing on smart cities, innovation, and technology in Brazil. So I encourage everybody to pay close attention and, of course, to network with all the different presenters at the end of the event when that networking opportunity is available. We're very happy to be a sponsor for the Brazil-Canada Chamber of Commerce and a partner for many, many years. And it's forums like this that we find are of benefit to Canadian companies to advance their interests, to advance their commercial interests and business and investment in Brazil. So on behalf of the Minister of International Trade, the Government of Canada, I welcome everybody and I wish you happy networking and a great presentation. Have a good day.
Perfect. Thank you, Bill. Without further ado, and I want to thank you everybody attending this event today. It's a pleasure to have you here, and we are absolutely certain that we'll take a lot of information back home with you. But without further ado, we have a big roster of speakers, fantastic group of people that have accepted to participate with us in this event. We are not going to read all their CVs, otherwise we'll spend the day here reading CVs. So the CVs are available at the site, will be available at the website of the BCCC, and it's already available in the application of the event. So we will introduce our first speakers, Dr. Janaína Pascal. She is from the Smart Cities Academy, an expert in smart cities, has worked with the team for a number of years already. And with her, Eduardo Massarolo, founder and CEO of iCities Academy. Again, an organization that has been working actively in the definition and implementation of smart city projects across Brazil. So I welcome Dr. Janaína Pascal and Eduardo Massarolo for the first presentation.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting us to be here in this afternoon with you to discuss some issues about smart cities, mainly in Brazil, but also in Canada. And Edu, would you like to say hi to the guys?
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you, Marcio, for the presentation. Thank you, Carolina. It's a pleasure to be here. And I greet everyone from Canada. I don't know, Janaína, if you want to share our presentation.
Yes, I'm going to share the presentation. Do you see here?
Yep, there you go.
Let me put here in the presentation mode. Just a second. So this afternoon, we prepared some topics related to smart cities in Brazil, some opportunities, some challenges, and some overview about what we are developing here, like in the last couple of years. So iCities, the iCities company, is located in Curitiba, Brazil, is South Brazil. So it's a very, very beautiful city. We have almost 2 million inhabitants, the updated data. We have a lot of green areas, which is one of the most important components when we talk about smart cities. We need to take this into account about quality of life, quality of air, quality of people who lives there. So here, a brief overview about Brazil. Let me just put here in the, yeah. So we have about 5,570 cities with about 211 million inhabitants. So here in this chart, you can see that Brazil is located here in the 5th country with the most population nations on Earth. So here we can say that we have a lot of important challenges, mainly related to water, energy, and food. I don't know if you're used to this concept of water, energy, and food nexus. Is an issue that I worked a lot during my PhD and my postdoctoral research. And Brazil and mainly USA are two important countries that are facing a lot of challenges about this. So this is the data, updated data from last year. Let me just put here, sorry. So here we can see with this huge population, for sure, we have huge challenges as well, mainly related to sanitation systems, for example. So the direct impact on public health and well-being and environmental. For example, only 61% of the population is served by sewer system. Edu, would you like to add something here in my comments until now?
As you can see, all these 5,500 cities in Brazil, most of them have big challenges in terms of especially infrastructure. So one of the things that we look for when having partnerships with foreign companies is regarding infrastructure technologies, and it's pretty important to take note that we're gonna talk about in the next slide, but we need to tropicalize these solutions for Brazil. And besides the infrastructure that we lack here in Brazil, we have an outdated public lighting that represents almost 20% of the whole energy consumption in the country. And we have 13 billion lighting poles, according to Eletrobras, one of the biggest energy companies here in Brazil. And this is one of the biggest opportunities that we have in Brazil. It's updating the public lighting system, in which, as Renato de Castro is here as well. Hi, Renato, how are you? Knows that this is the main entrance for smart cities program and projects in Brazil and the whole world, because the public lighting serves as a basis for that. Also, treatment of solid waste. I think we put money in the soil, we put money in the ground, and this is one of the things that we wanna work on, and we are working on in Brazil. We're gonna get into the details with Janaína in the next slides. Public management tools. I think today we have lots of softwares and lots of platforms that governments could use for better managing cities, for better managing processes, for collecting data. And this is one of the things that we have been working with some city halls here as well to improve their management overall. Education, we're going to talk a little bit about that later, because we have developed the iCities Academy here exactly for training public managers and also companies that want to work with smart cities concept more directly, and the need for change in the whole energy and transmission systems, as I think despite that we have an energy matrix very clean and renewable. I think we have lots of problems in the transmission and distribution systems for this energy. So I think this is one of these are not all of our challenges, but we consider these are the maybe the most opportunities that we have here. So I think Janaina, you can go for it. And as I said before, we need to tropicalize the technology. We have been visiting the Smart City Expo World Congress in Barcelona, the event that we brought here to Curitiba in Brazil, and talking to lots of companies there. We identified that we need to adapt lots of technologies that today are used and are used for the whole population and governments in Europe, in the United States, but we have to adapt them to our current and our because it's not just technical issues, but legal issues. And can you hear me well? Is the connection unstable?
It's a little unstable.
Yeah, a little unstable.
Okay, I think I'm back. So Janaina, you can go on.
Yes, sure. So in this picture here, we can see about the triple helix that is very famous, but I think we can make a link between this picture here and the event that we are talking right now. We need to put together government, universities, industries, and citizens mainly when it comes to real smart cities. So the government for sure is responsible for the public policies to stimulate more smart cities to become reality. Universities are very important to develop research, to develop new methodologies, new technologies, and industry is responsible for making some processes real. Now we can apply, we can implement some process through the industry to prove that these kind of tools or methodologies are really necessary for the cities. And for sure, when it comes to smart cities, we need to think a lot about citizens. We always need to involve them in the decisions, in the policy making, in the useful tools that they need to use during their daily time, during their journey. So we think the citizens have a very important role here to play. So we are gonna talk now about some projects being developed here in Brazil. iCities are involved, people from iCities are involved in a lot of very pilot projects, very innovative projects here. And I think Eduardo can explain us a little bit better about some of them.
Yeah, we have selected some of the projects that we consider important telling you. These are projects that have been going on here for a while. We have, despite the fact that we have outdated public lighting, we have already started to work with telemetry and update the public lighting with LED systems. Various cities are doing that. For example, Belo Horizonte has started doing a big project on that. São Paulo has a project with that. Curitiba has a project with that. Salvador has a project. They started to change the public lighting. One of the projects that we like to highlight here is the urban farms that Curitiba have been developing for maybe 5 years now. These are projects that put the community together in order to help them, help their families, and put the community to produce their own food, learn how to produce their food in the whole cycle, since planting the crops and cooking the food, and also they can sell the things, the food they produce in a urban farm, which is public. It's for the community. So this is a project that's been going on in Curitiba and has won a couple of awards in other countries. We have the project that I translated here, but it's Complete Streets project from the World Resource Institute, in which it's a new urbanization project. It's a project that they have been doing in lots of cities. Campinas is one of the examples. Curitiba also this year gained a street with that concept, in which is transforming a street into a laboratory street. I mean, that is putting technology, putting infrastructure, and putting the society, the population to live that and to validate the solutions that they have been testing in these streets. Also, real estate developments, new real estate developments, and new neighborhoods that are being developed for real estate developers in Brazil with smart city concepts. This is one of the things that ICs have been working on along with these real estate developers. We are now working in a project in the state of Minas Gerais. It's a small city that it's developing a small innovation center in which will turn into a big real estate development, and we're helping them bring the smart city concepts and smart city solutions. As I talked before, also living labs. The Itaipu, I think you know the dam, Itaipu Dam in Foz do Iguaçu. I think maybe it's not anymore the biggest dam in Brazil, the hydroelectric power, and maybe it's the second now. And the Itaipu Technological Park has developed living labs there to test also electric cars, to test also cars moved by biomethane. And it's a living lab that it's running maybe about 5 or 6 years now. And AI traffic control also, it's a project it's going on in Salvador as well. So these are some examples of projects that are being developed. Maybe lots of them started in the past 10 years only. So it's very new. It's very the opportunities is huge for the next 10 to 20 to 30 years. This is the map where the complete streets are working. So we have been covering pretty much the whole country here with the projects. 5 years ago, there was only one city, which was Campinas, but now you can see in the map that all regions of Brazil had gained these streets. And now we come off with these trends and opportunities. As I said, I think when we have challenges, we automatically have opportunities of projects to be developed. So the improvement of public lighting in Brazil with telemetry systems, IoT, and the whole system that you could embed in these infrastructures. Public security, as you know, we have a pretty bad situation in social security overall in Brazil, due to the poverty and due to things in the society overall. And public security with systems, with cameras, with facial recognition cameras. This is for us is one of the biggest opportunities that we have in Brazil in terms of technology investment. The development of more innovation centers and technology parks in partnership with universities. We have a lot of universities that are demanding this kind of project to put the academy, put the university more close to the market, more close to the cities. Renewable energies and waste management. Janaina is going to talk about that in a while. And new mobility systems for public transportation. This is a huge opportunity, as we have a good pilot project going on in Goiânia, here in the state of Goiás, which is to update the mobility system, update public transportation with technology, with artificial intelligence. So this is something that's already happening, but has a huge opportunity to be spread out to the whole country.
Great, Eduardo. So here we're going to talk now about a little bit about the biomethane, which means the renewable source of energy, updated from biogas. And I know that they have Brazil is being very highlighted in the world as a country that is reference about biogas methodologies. So the transportation sector here in Brazil is a very high energy consumer. It represents about 32% of the total energy use share. So this means a lot of energy. And unfortunately, we are still very dependent of fossil fuels. So we have about 76% of our and transportation sector depending on fossil fuels. So we can see here the most part of it, 45% depends on diesel and 29% of gasoline. And for sure, we can change this scenario. We can include more renewable sources of energy, mainly biomethane. And here we can see the importance of renewable and sustainable sources of energy linked to urban mobility. And for sure, this is a challenge for cities planning and management, and also is related to the greenhouse gas emissions, related to climate change. So here we can see a chart with the carbon intensity of some sources of energy. We can see here that biomethane is even considered negative because it has the lowest level of greenhouse gas emissions, is considered virtually zero, as the CO2 produced by recovering the biomethane has previously been captured by the decomposed organic matter, which means it does not emit a lot of CO2 gas to the atmosphere. This source of energy can help cities to address the climate change challenges for sure. And here you can see some people get a little scared about this chart here when we see the electricity here. When it comes to carbon intensity, if you take into account most part of the energy electric matrix in the world, most of them are depending on fossil fuels. I know that Canada, as well as Brazil, we have a lot of hydropower plants, so our electricity matrix is renewable, it's clean, but in the other countries of the world, they are not like this. So biomethane here has two important advantages related or compared to other sources of energy. It's available everywhere, which means in every country you're going to have organic matter that can be decomposed and transformed into biogas. And usability, which means we can storage the energy generated to biogas. So it can be produced all over the world and does not depend on the geographical or weather conditions. So this is the main advantage that we can say about biogas and biomethane process. We can see here, I did this comparison between the different fossil and renewable sources of energy for urban mobility during my PhD research. And we can see here that biomethane emits 85% less CO2 emissions than compared to diesel, for example. And it has the same yield, which means it's a very comparative and very has a lot of advantage if compared to other sources of energy. Electric vehicles are always considered the most clean vehicles, but we need to think about the sources of electric energy in each country. For example, if we are talking about electric vehicles in the US, they are not so clean because the energy comes from coal, 33%, natural gas that is not renewable, 33% as well, and nuclear energy, 20%, which means we can fuel our electric vehicles with fossil fuels. For sure, they emit less CO2 gases for the atmosphere when we are using these vehicles, but the electricity used to fuel them are not so clean. In Brazil, we have a clean matrix. As I said, we have a very broad field for hydropower, about 64%. But in the last 2 years, the cost of our electricity increased 67%, which means it's a very important kind of initiatives when we talk about electric vehicles, but we need to find better alternatives and diversify this source of energy. So biomethane, as I said, emits 85% less CO2 emissions than diesel. And if we can use our potential here in Brazil, we can fuel here our diesel demand for about 75%, which means we have the capacity to overlap this demand of diesel and consume biomethane, that is a very renewable source of energy. And we can also replace 89% of our natural gas, which means we have a lot of opportunities here. Biogas and biomethane are being considered like hot topics here for the research and development in Brazil. Edu, can you talk to us a little bit about events?
Just to give you a final message, we're coming to an end here. Where ICITS has today the most important event in the country, which is the Smart City Expo Curitiba, the Brazilian edition of the Smart City Expo World Congress from Barcelona. And in addition to the events, we have been working with projects, with consultancy projects. Janina, can you move forward, please? We have been working with projects along with companies and city halls and municipalities to develop diagnosis, to develop projects and master plans for these cities. Can you go ahead? We have five lines of projects in smart cities. So we have a cities diagnosis analysis, urban sprints, real estate sprints for territorial development, project development, and smart city consulting overall. And also we have the ICITS Academy, which is in which Janaína is our official academy coordinator. We have a 10-module training course for public managers as well as businessmen and also academics also, in which we cover pretty much the all smart cities verticals, all smart cities areas. Can you put in the next slide? So we have a 10-module training program so that we could accelerate this smart city projects in cities and among citizens and all this kind of stuff. So thank you, everyone. Oh, and also we have a technical committee, a technical journey for Barcelona, in which we developed since 2016, and we take public managers from the whole country to Barcelona to visit projects, smart cities projects in the city, to visit the 22 neighborhood there, the district. And we also visit the event, Smart City Expo in Barcelona, which this year we couldn't go, but we're hoping that next year the pandemics will allow us to go. So thank you very much. Merci. Obrigado for everyone for this for the invitation. These are our contact information. We're open to connect with you guys. And also again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you, Janaína Eduardo. We obviously hope and expect that the next mission will also consider Toronto and other Canadian cities as destinations. You'll be more than welcome, and both us at the Canadian Council of Global Affairs Canada and the Chamber of Commerce will be more than pleased and happy to work with you for a meaningful program of visits in Canada. But we'll definitely retake that discussion in the networking session afterwards. So without further ado, I would like to now introduce our next speaker, Renato de Castro, a consultant involved deeply with planning of cities, and in particular with the City of Salvador project, Salvador Smart City project. So Renato, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Marcio. Let me see if you can see me now.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Good evening to everyone. Renato de Castro. Today, especially, I'm talking to you directly from Italy. I'm Brazilian, but I've been, as Marcio said, I've been working with smart cities since 2007, and at that time I was in China, and I started working for the Brazilian government in what we called that time internationalization of the Brazilian cities. We had 3 big events happening in Brazil at that time, and then I started somehow working with smart cities. Now I'm living in Italy, and I'm working directly with the government, some projects, and one of the main ones that I will introduce you a little bit. Mainly the methodology behind the Smart City project in Brazil is the Salvador one, as mentioned. But before, as the organizers asked me to bring a little bit the perspective of smart cities and what we are expecting for the smart cities in these, let's say, post-COVID world, I have just 3 trends I would like to discuss with you. And after that, I'm going directly to the Brazilian case. So I don't know if I can share my screen with you. Let me just try here. And this is, I mean, we are now in this deep season of events, mainly in Brazil. I was sharing the stage just yesterday with Eduardo and Janaína there. A very nice event, Smart City Session there in Brazil. And this is the, I don't know, the fifth event I do this week. So the topic is very good. It's a good time to start thinking about Brazil as an option. Let me just see if I can share my screen here again. Let me put it at PPP. Here we are. Guys, please let me know if you see my sharing screen.
Yes, it's up.
Okay, great. So, well, this is as living in Italy, and we started with the COVID here. We were one of the first countries in the world after China, the first one here in Europe. So since February, we have these emergencies here, and I've been working with the Italian government in some recovery task forces for COVID, and we developed a kind of, let's say, methodology and a kind of new concept here that we're calling Kilometer 4.0. We put it together, the Kilometer Zero theory of the Italians with the 4.0 new fourth revolution. Technical revolution. And from this work here, we are foreseeing three very important trends that will impact our smart cities. So the first trend is the localization. Actually, the COVID was a catalyzer for this process that we were already following and we are already seeing the world. And the first one is that we have been already for the last, I would say, 5 years, seeing a very strong movement for the localization. People starting bringing back the origins, the DNA, and starting investing in these local aspects. And of course, companies were following these trend. We have been already talking about glocal, what we call the glocal, that is this global with local, but with COVID and mainly with these lockdowns that we had, we saw a very, very good speed up of this process. So we really deeply believe that the next level of let's say urban planning will have a lot of localization, and that is very important to take into consideration if you are planning to go to Brazil now, because next year we are starting a new 4-year terms for our cities. So we have a renewing most part of the cities. Some cities are with the second term of the mayors, but most part of the cities we are going to be facing now new terms, and I'm sure that these new terms will be very, very based in calling back roots, calling back origins. So when you talk about benchmarking, or when you're talking about bringing new technologies to a market like Brazil, as Eduardo said, tropicalization, as we call it there, it's very important to think how to bring this DNA inside your solution in order to get a smooth landing in Brazil. The second trend is, of course, technology was already a trend, and the fourth industrial revolution, we are already living the impact of this. But what we believe now is that first of all, we are going to face a very deep economical crisis in the world. Brazil, we are forecasting, we just had last week, the World Bank released some report showing that Brazil probably in the next 5 years, we are going to be reaching almost 100% of our national gross product in public debt. So of course, there will be a lot of restrictions. And also, if you come to the private sector, companies will be refocusing, redirecting their investments in technology. So we are going to be facing now a lot of investment based in real problem solutions technologies that will bring us to enhancing the life quality in our cities. We see a lot of new joint ventures and venture capitals in Brazil focusing in these solutions. So if you're thinking it doesn't matter if it's Brazil your focus, or if it's the world, if you're thinking a go global strategy for your solutions, think about it. I've been following the Toronto strategy for a smart city since 2016. I had the opportunity to meet Rob Michael. He was the CIO of Toronto at that time. We shared the stage on China, and he was showing the project of Toronto coast, the lake, or the Bay Area they're renewing. I think it was a Google project, and I heard this year that Google are rethinking all the projects around the world. Of course, again, it's before maybe it was still these long-term thoughts about smart cities and long-term investments in investing now and bringing, let's see how the results in the future. Nowadays it will change a little bit, so keep this in focus. And the last one, and I think that we are seeing very deeply nowadays, we were already talking about the new age of cities back to the 5 centuries ago, the city-state concept. But now we see this becoming very, very strong. We saw London during the Brexit, that London started the same day they approved the Brexit, London started assigning to become independent. Of course, it was just a milestone just to show the power of London, but probably London as a city now has more voice than England as a country. And then we go to different, say, cities with the same example. And in Brazil now, we have some political issues. I mean, we have just finished a term for cities, but we are still in these more 2 years term for national governments and regional governments. So this will bring us some issues, and so you need to be aware about this. São Paulo now is trying to it's for sure far the most important city in Brazil, but it's trying also to lead the Brazilian political scenario. So this we are going to be facing. So doing the right partnerships and looking for the right partners in wherever you go in the world now for smart cities, it's really very important. And so at the end, putting all together these three let's say these three trends, we have this new paradigm that we are going to have a very super local economy, but hype technological, really based in ad-cutting technologies. So bringing out everything, all of these to Brazil and try to show you Brazil, or where are the opportunities in Brazil, complementing a little bit what Janaína and Eduardo just said. Well, I'm part of Salvador Smart City project. Actually, this is a 1-year project that we have started there in Salvador. It was a public concession to start developing the framework for smart cities, for the smart city project in Salvador. Who doesn't know Salvador yet? Salvador is the 4th largest or most populated city in Brazil. It's very particular because it's the they call it the blackest city out of Africa in the world. So Salvador has a very deep roots from Africa descendants, and it's a very tourism-oriented city. So it's suffering a lot with the COVID and with all these changes there. And to understand how it is happening, and I think that the model of Salvador was the last big bid for a smart city that we had in Brazil last year. After that, we could not have any new contracts because it was the last year of a term of a mayor's terms. So you cannot hire in that year as the next year. So what was not planned was not hired. And it happened there, and that we believe will be the new normal for smart city projects in big cities in Brazil. We did a consortium, and I'm a partner of this company called Spin, that is the leader of the consortium. And this consortium is a very, very good opportunity for you from Canada that wants to go to Brazil, looking for this local partner that you can come inside a project without directly bidding this project, because it's quite complicated. We are trying to simplify this in Brazil, the contracts, the public contracts, but still on the process. And so I think that this is the first good step to come inside the Brazilian market. The second one, that was the project that we developed there, the methodology that we developed there, it's a national, let's say, oriented methodology, is still not obligation in Brazil, but there are some works done in the Congress to become like a law in Brazil, like a topic for the cities. That is the Smart City Technology Master Plan. We already have the master plan, the city master plan for urban development. That is, it's obliged. All cities should have this in Brazil. But now we started with the Smart City Technologies. So it's very, very important to understand this framework. So it's easier for you to address your technology inside what cities are looking for in Brazil in a very methodological way. That is the most important thing. And then these two last topics also happen during this year. First of all, Brazil has just published our local version for the ISO 37100, that is the so-called Smart City ISO. So we are starting to follow some global indicators for smart cities, and these indicators will be the milestones for the cities. So if you get to understand these and somehow place your solution inside these topics, will be very good, because you're going to be aligned not only with Brazil, but the whole world. And the last one, and maybe one of the most important one, from last year on, we started to see in Brazil local legislation, cities law regarding innovation. Before, for a city to hire, to contract, to do public contracts for technology was very complicated, really traditional bids, and most part of the time, smart city technologies are new technologies. We don't have competitors in some areas, so cities could not hire this. With these local laws, they have these new, let's say, law instruments to hire companies, international companies, local companies with new technologies. So looking for projects in Brazil, understand if they have or they are doing this process in their local governments. And the last part, to finish my talk, I see two big trends in terms of contracts in Brazil, public contracts in Brazil, that somehow you can address technologies inside, not necessarily with the same main focus, but the same scope, but you can address your technology on these. The first one is, I think Janaína already talked about this, but we just had in July the Brazilian new sanitation legal framework approved in the Congress. It's national, and there will be a lot of investments on it. And the PPPs, the public-private partnerships in street lighting, Eduardo also mentioned. My time is over. It's already very popular in Brazil. It's very safe. There is a lot of money for these, because cities has special money that they just can't spend for these street lighting. And we have already, it seems, comparing that we have more than 5,000 cities, but we have already 40 PPP signed and already being accomplished there and developed there in Brazil. It was 44 in total, 4 was canceled, but 40 it's already on. So next year, see a lot of opportunities on these. So thank you very much. I think it was these. My 15 minutes is over.
Thank you, Renato. Thank you for keeping the time as well. Just a note to complement that. The regulatory environment, we'll be talking a little bit more about that, but the regulatory environment for both the new sanitation framework as well as lighting in Brazil is considered very solid and has attracted the attention, including pension funds, international pension funds, and Canadian pension funds as well. So anyways, over to you now, Carolina.
Thank you so much, Marcio. Thank you, Renato, for the great presentation. It was very, very refreshing, and you can definitely feel your Italian blood coming on from your speech. So thanks for that. It was really, really great. Now I would like to invite, just before I invite Daniela and I open the mic, I give the mic to her, we will be touching a little bit about regulatory on the PPP for street lighting a little bit further ahead today with our colleagues from Cisco Barrio. And we're also going to hear from IBI Group about their experience with public lighting projects in Brazil too. So just to give you guys a little bit of a spoiler what's coming. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Daniela Rebouças from Invest São Paulo. And Daniela will give us a little bit of overview of the initiatives of the state of São Paulo and a little peek on the very interesting project they have to share with us. Thank you, Daniela. Mic is yours.
First, thank you for the invitation. And this is a wonderful opportunity. And I would like to thank you, everyone here present. I'm Daniela Rebouças. I work as a project developer at Invest SP. I don't know if you have heard of it. It's a promotion agency that it's under the umbrella of the Secretary of Economic Development of São Paulo government of the state. And I spent the last 20 years living outside of Brazil, mostly particularly in New York. And when I recently moved back to São Paulo, and I essentially accept this role because for the first time I see São Paulo really focused on the international market. So what I will be presenting to you guys, it's a very strategic project of a master plan to convert a very interesting and strategic urban set area called Arco Pinheiros of São Paulo, to convert that into an innovation hub. Such as Renato was mentioned before about the innovation technology, São Paulo is certainly very focused on that. And I don't think that should be considered a trend. It's more like a future pathway, because there's no other way we can particularly deal with the challenges of such as climate change and all of the urban density without any sort of technology and innovation. So I would like to share my screen and introduce this, again, very strategic project that it pertains the realm of smart cities, because you understand in a minute the scale of the project. So just allow me to share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
All right. So the project is called City. The center, it's the.
Sorry, can you put it in full screen?
Yeah. How about now?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. So the project's called City, the Centro Internacional de Tecnologia e Inovação, which is essentially means the International Center for Technology and Innovation. And just for you to understand the scale of the project, it's about almost 116 acres. And it's considered, it's a priority program of the state of São Paulo. We call the pluriannual project. So it's more of like a state project rather than the government. So referring to a lot of people are concerned when we're talking about investment in one particular administration, and then you can lose the continuity of those investments. This is a state project. So most of the investments and the developments will be taken under PPPs that allows the continuity of the project. And wants to be an innovation hub. And I guess I would say that one particular innovation hub that the whole world was observing was the Toronto Innovation Hub, right? That had the Sidewalk Lab investing all its KPIs technology. So the city, the project city, really wants to take on all sort of smart city complexities and interventions that you can have the optimal and optimize this new development, solely focus on creating this innovation hub ecosystem. And obviously we can never reinvent the wheel. So we were really studying precedents projects such as the Cornell Tech that is in New York, and understanding this very peculiar different structures, right? Where you have the private governance with the strategic PPPs that happens, that it's so common in US, particularly New York. And there's a very successful other example in Brazil, which is the Porto Digital in Recife, and then the Science Park in Hong Kong, China, and then the Dubai. So you have, for instance, the Hong Kong, China, where you have 100% state governments, and Dubai. And then again, the Porto Digital in Recife, it's a total public-private partnership. And it became very successful. It generates about 1.7 billion in revenue a year. And it has already 9,000 professionals working every day. It generated, and it become already one of the 10 most technological destinations of the world. So the area that we're talking about, it's called Arco Pinheiros, which comprises, there's the density of the downtown, the financial district of Faria Lima, to, it's near one of the most important universities of Latin America, and if not Brazil, which is the University of Sao Paulo. And then we are, and I'm gonna show the next slide, which it shows all of the sites that we wanted to develop. So the city, we divided this whole project, again, the scale, right, that those 115 acres, we divided in 3 phases, that those phases that in blue, that are in blue, we consider those are sites that pertains to the government of the state of Sao Paulo. So we have the phase 1, which is the EPT. EPT stands for Institute of Pesquisa Technology, which means the Technology Research Institute. It has 120 years. It's one of the most important institutes for research and technology in Brazil. And it's a campus. It's the MIT of Brazil. And we are calling that the phase 1 because EPT was a very close institute of technology, and we're opening part of this campus that is comprised about 67 buildings, and we are open to the public. And essentially this week we are launching the office of the C4R for the World Economic Forum, the Center for the Fourth Industry Revolution. And we're also having 3 other that I cannot say right now. They are coming to the EPT, very strategic technology, innovation to start to create this innovation hub. And the second phase is the Jaguaré Park, which is about 80,000 square meters with a potential of construction of 3.0. So it's a bit of an interesting opportunity, particularly for real estate developers and real estate development funds, because of the strategic location being so near the University of Sao Paulo and EPT, which is inside the University of Sao Paulo, and it creates this perfect ecosystem to develop this innovation hub. The third phase is what we are really focused also is in the depollution of the river, the Pinheiros River. So we will be using those sites of the AMA and detention center to become public parks. And of course, the CIAGESP, which is this essentially one of the biggest distribution market to the city. And and it's in one of the most prominent area right now called Vila Leopoldina, which the government wants to convert that whole area into a innovation hub. And when you look at that site, it becomes a perfect tabula rasa, a perfect plate to all sort of the implementations of what you would like to call this the citadel of a perfect integrated city. You know, as if you can see, 640,000 square meter of a planned land to be developed the way the city deserves, into an innovation hub that you also have. We were thinking about a landmark building, some sort of a museum, or the Museum of Science and Technology, and you know, a place where people will live, work, and you create this whole ecosystem of that becomes extremely integrated. For us, when we're talking about smart city, it becomes extremely important on the lexus of what it means to be a smart city. It needs to be integrated, particularly with the ecological part of what it means when you're talking about any sort of intervention in a city like São Paulo, and this particular site that is on the marge of a very important river. So, so for me, I am an urbanist, and when I think of a smart city, I know all of the technologies behind of an IoT, but I also think that this incredible revolution that we are facing right now, it needs to be extremely integrated with all of the environmental impact that the cities are causing. So I know I'm going over my time, and I just want to say that this is a very strategic project for us and the government of São Paulo and Invest, and I hope I can continue to talk separately with people of all of the immense opportunities of developing this site.
Thank you so much, Dani, for this amazing presentation. I mean, I'm so happy to see what São Paulo is doing in terms of smart cities. So I'm really excited about this project and can't wait to hear more of those information that you can share with us right now. Yeah. So if anyone, again, we will do, we have Q&A session in the end of the event. So if anyone has any questions to any of the panelists so far, please make sure to add in the Q&A box and we will get back to you the answers in the end. So without further ado, I would like to invite Daniela de Cássia, Mayor of Monteiro Lobato, and also the president of the Brazilian National Council for Municipalities. And she's going to give us also a small overview of her experience with smart cities and the beautiful project that she did in Monteiro Lobato, this super charming city in the countryside of São Paulo. So Daniela, Daniela's presentation will be in Portuguese, but Márcio Franceschini will be our honored simultaneous translation. So Daniela, muito obrigada por estar aqui hoje. Vai ser um prazer ouvir você falando, e o Márcio vai fazer a tradução da sua apresentação para nossa audiência aqui. Então eu vou passar a bola para vocês. Muito obrigada.
And I apologize right off the bat because it will be consecutive translation, so you have to bear with us in terms of patience. Vamos lá, Daniela. O palco é seu.
Olá, boa tarde a todos. Uma alegria imensa poder compartilhar um pouco da experiência da nossa cidade encantada de Monteiro Lobato.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be able to share with you the experience of our wonderful city, Monteiro Lobato.
Estou como prefeita da cidade. Ok? Sim. Fui eleita prefeita de Monteiro Lobato em 2013 para a primeira gestão.
I was elected mayor for the first time in 2013.
Em 2016 fui reeleita prefeita pelo segundo mandato de Monteiro Lobato.
In 2016
eu estou falando já, Márcio.
In 2016 I was re-elected.
Eu estou dizendo que fui eleita prefeita de Monteiro Lobato, né? E reeleita em 2016, fui eleita em 2013.
Pode continuar.
E nós desenvolvemos na campanha eleitoral de 2016 um projeto chamado Cidade Inteligente, Humana e Encantada. Então, todo o norte do nosso planejamento do segundo mandato, ele está para atender as demandas dos Objetivos de Desenvolvimento Sustentável.
Ok, deixa eu tentar um pouquinho. Frases curtas. So the second,
para vocês conhecerem um pouquinho, que uma cidade pequena como Monteiro Lobato também pode ser considerada uma cidade inteligente. Uma cidade com um orçamento muito pequeno.
With a small money that receives. Okay.
Uma cidade com orçamento de 16 milhões ano.
About 16 millions by year receives by the government.
Onde 47% é para pagamento de funcionário público.
The workers, public workers.
28% de investimento na saúde e 29% para a educação.
29% by the education.
Muitas dificuldades,
There's
né?
A lot of difficulties.
Porque a gente vive ainda num contexto desde 2013 entre crise financeira global,
world financial crisis.
Sofremos impeachment, que isso também acaba afetando os municípios, em especial de pequeno porte, e também uma pandemia, né?
President impeachment, then it blocks some financial resources and a pandemic.
E se faz ainda mais necessário num contexto como a gente está vivenciando de pandemia, que todas as cidades
and in the middle of the pandemic crisis and all the cities
comece a pensar, né, em como se tornar uma cidade inteligente.
How to become a smart city.
O programa CIA 2030, ele tem como principal...
The CAHA 2030, that's the main project.
Valorizar e integralizar os 17 Objetivos de Desenvolvimento Sustentáveis da ONU.
The 70 goals and the sustainable development of the ONU.
Então, todas as secretarias municipais, elas atuam. O principal objetivo do CIA 2030.
It's a main object and main goal on the CAH 2013.
É transformar a cidade de Monteiro
Lobato
numa cidade inteligente, humana e encantada.
A smart and human city.
A partir de esforços do poder público, com a conversão do modelo tradicional para o conceito de smart cities.
By the strength of the public power to a smart city.
Potencializando características locais.
The local characteristics.
Porque é uma cidade interiorana, uma cidade rural.
It's a country city, that's a rural city.
E a nossa preocupação sempre foi não perdermos as características tradicionais da cidade.
Our roots and country of our city.
Os principais objetivos do projeto.
Main goals of this project.
Engajamento dos cidadãos, né? É uma cidade inteligente que parte da premissa em que as pessoas estão no centro.
Getting the city so close and the people living in the downtown.
É um conceito que aprendi muito com o professor Renato Castro, que está aí também hoje.
It's a concept learning with the teacher Renato Castro. Castro.
Isso. Então, através de espaços e momentos para participação efetiva e monitoramento das políticas públicas.
By some states and the collective of the public politics.
Através dos conselhos municipais.
By the municipal reunion. Eu não sei como falar os conceitos, mas enfim.
Diagnosticar dados, né? Para nós, o mais importante no início do processo foi fazer um censo municipal, né? Coleta de dados primários.
We study the primary information of the situations.
A integração de todos esses dados.
Join this information.
Em todas as secretarias, porque os dados têm que ser
all the departments
transformados em informações, né?
All the departments of the city.
Que irão possibilitar a melhor tomada de decisão do gestor, visto que o orçamento é muito pequeno e a gente tem que ter prioridade naquilo que realmente é importante para o cidadão.
It will become the better resolutions and the better it became the better decisions of the government to apply the
decisões efetivas dos programas de governo.
Okay, to apply the best decisions to apply this project.
Como objetivo também a ampliação da conectividade, porque a gente está numa cidade montanhosa, com difícil acesso de internet.
We're looking for to grow the connectivity and the other connections, because the city Monteiro Lobato is in between the mountains, and so hard to make this communication.
Melhorar a capacidade de processamento e compartilhamento de dados.
Better this compilation for all the information.
Melhorando a qualidade da gestão pública.
Getting better the quality and the clarity of the public government.
Automatização dos processos para melhorar também a eficiência da gestão.
Automation of all this project to get better this administration of the
Não, passa os resultados, né? Pode passar os resultados. Essa é a fase de diagnóstico, né, com os gestores, com os funcionários públicos. O desenvolvimento do encantamento da cidade, são artes, tem uma cidade com muito artistas, então a gente começou a colorir a cidade, implantamos empreendedorismo na escola desde o primeiro ano, né, até o quinto, sustentabilidade no planeta. Depois você traduz, Carol, para eles?
Não, faz
sistema fotovoltaico.
Vai fazendo a tradução daí.
Sistema fotovoltaico em todos os prédios da prefeitura. Pode passar.
They've included solar panels in all the city-owned buildings.
Isso. Também captação de águas de chuva, porque é uma cidade que chove bastante e a gente otimiza a água, né, para lavar carros, viaturas, calçadas.
So they collecting rainwater to use for to clean the city and to reuse water.
Isso, pode passar. Trocamos 100% de iluminação por LED.
So the whole city has been.
Isso...
Diga, Daniela.
Não, pode voltar. Gerou uma economia de 62% na conta de iluminação pública, a troca de todas as luminárias por LED.
So by replacing all the lighting with LED lights, they've saved over 62% in the expense of energy expense for the city.
Câmeras de segurança, né, e vídeo monitoramento totalmente integrada com a iluminação pública e também com uma sala de monitoramento.
So they've also implemented security cameras with the lighting to create a safer city, and also like a control room for the city to follow all the applications implemented in the city.
Isso. Também implantamos ouvidoria, né, digital, e aí o conceito de cidade encantada, porque é uma cidade com um escritor muito famoso, que é Monteiro Lobato, um escritor de contos infantis, e a gente está construindo uma cidade temática para atrair o turista.
They've also developed and created. They've also created a digital ombudsman to listen to the city, and they also creating for tourism the Enchanted City, because the city was named after a very famous children's writer in Brazil. So this is the photo on how they're revitalizing and upgrading the look of the city to attract more tourists as well.
Ok, pode passar. Nós tivemos alguns reconhecimentos, né, por conta de diagnósticos e também por criar um festival literário extremamente importante que aumentou o índice de desenvolvimento básico da educação, né? Temos um projeto de um parque temático em parceria público-privada, com a iniciativa privada, né? Pode passar.
So they've been recognized for the way that they created the diagnostic. They've also been recognized by the creation of a very famous children's book festival, literary festival for kids, based on the origin of the city.
Sim, pode passar, está acabando. Para que popularize na comunidade todos os cartazes e posts, saem já com os objetivos que a gente atende. Tivemos um reconhecimento nacional pela coleta de dados e um reconhecimento internacional, pode passar, no Uruguai, por ser uma cidade tão pequena.
They've been recognized nationally by their capability of data collection. They've been recognized internationally by receiving a prize in Uruguay as well, in the category of smart cities.
Yes. Pode passar, está acabando.
Still much to come.
O conceito... claro, ainda há muito a construir, mas todos esses projetos estão em andamento. Eu entrego agora para o novo gestor uma cidade com mais de 20 milhões de reais investidos, e parte disso com parceiros da iniciativa privada, Banco Interamericano de Desenvolvimento e também universidades. E aí eu considero que...
Go ahead. Daniela is now leaving her term and as a mayor, and the new mayor that's starting in January is inherited a city with over 20 million reais invested in smart technology, and this investment was done in partnership with the BID, the the BID, and also private investors as well.
Pode passar, acho que tem um conceito que nós utilizamos, que é o do BID, né? Porque ainda não tínhamos a Carta Brasileira de Cidades Inteligentes, que sou uma das participantes também, né? Esse é o conceito que a gente utilizou no início do processo. Aí pode passar, porque eu fecho dizendo que é possível, sim, uma cidade de pequeno porte, com poucos recursos financeiros, pensar grande, se planejar, se projetar, e ter os parceiros certos para a implementação de uma cidade inteligente, humana e encantada. Desculpa todas as falhas, mas agradeço a oportunidade de poder apresentar um pouco do nosso trabalho.
So Daniela just wants to finish her presentation by saying that it is possible for smaller cities to implement smart technologies to improve the quality of life with the right partners. And she wants to thank everyone for being here today. And We will translate her presentation and share it on our website. So if you have any questions about the project from Monteiro Lobato, as well as I wanted to connect to Daniela directly, please let us know and we'll be happy to put you all in touch. Daniela, muito obrigada pela sua participação aqui. Desculpa também os problemas técnicos. Agradeço demais vocês terem feito essa apresentação aqui para a gente hoje e parabéns por todas as realizações que vocês fizeram, as entregas na cidade de Monteiro Lobato. So since we're running a little bit of our time, like late, I will, Marcio, do you want to go ahead and introduce our next speakers, please?
Yes, so we're going to talk a little bit about innovation in both Brazil and Canada. And we'll start with Bruno Peters, a Global Smart City lead at the IBI Group, a company that is actually already active in Brazil in some areas, and very likely we'll be seeing and hearing a lot more about them. So Bruno, over to you.
Good afternoon. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, right on.
Excellent. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bruno Peters. I'm Director of Smart Cities for IBI Group. It's a pleasure to be here. Some very fascinating conversations already taking place, so that's wonderful. I will try and keep it as brief as possible to keep us all on schedule. But maybe just a few words about who we are and just to kind of set the context around smart cities and what we're doing and some of our experiences around the world, and then talk a little bit about our entry into the market in Brazil and how excited we are about that opportunity. So IBI Group, we are a technology-driven design firm, and we work in three broad areas of building smart cities. We work on the infrastructure piece, which is the sort of the base foundational planning and infrastructure for planning, design, and implementation of the infrastructure for cities. So all of the underground components, the roads, the bridges, and all of the utility servicing that's required for a city. The other part of our practice is around building, so the vertical component of cities, and so we work in the areas of institutional buildings, whether it's schools, hospitals, city halls, fire stations, those kinds of things. Also in healthcare facilities and operations, education, mixed use, commercial and residential mixed, and also high-rise developments is a big part of our practice. So we have the underlying infrastructure, we have the vertical component, and then last but definitely not least is our intelligence practice, the third I in IBI, where we plan and implement and operate the technology that works between all of these elements within the community, the infrastructure, the buildings, the operations, and the people. So that's a bit of a quick snapshot of who we are and the lens that we're viewing this from. We are an international company. We are Canadian-based, headquartered in Toronto. And we work around the world, and we have an increasing presence throughout Latin America. Just a quick word on the different scales of cities in terms of the smart cities component. We all know that we can make buildings smart, but it's important that we look at things not just from the building perspective of how that's integrated within a community and how the buildings and things interact with the community, and particularly when it comes to technology. And I think Daniela mentioned this earlier about making sure that the technology is integrated into your planning and the implementation of your communities. And we call it here in IBI a sustainable urban integration. And we want to make sure that things are integrated within the community. And then that goes broader from a smart city perspective when you're connecting different communities together and the services that you require and the mobility and all of those different components that you need to make a smooth operation across a city. So I'm going to just explain a couple of examples of experiences that we had and how that, and then I'll tie in how that relates to the potentially to the Brazilian market. In Canada, we have just gone through one round of it's a Canadian National Smart Cities Challenge. The intent of the challenge is to focus on very specific issues that communities are facing across the country, and then empower those communities to innovate from that perspective. And then once these first initial round of projects are implemented, look at how those projects can then be scaled across the country. So this would be an important potential element in Brazil with a large number of municipalities. It doesn't make sense for every municipality to be trying the same thing, and developing that network of learning from one another, I think is an important lesson learned. And in the context of the two cities that we helped in this program, one was very specific on looking at the specific corridors of transportation and reducing the collisions and fatalities to zero. And another one where it was more of a broader citywide element of collecting data and using analytics and testing interventions within certain neighborhoods, testing the results using data and real information, and then adjusting before you roll those out to the cities. A little bit farther away, in India, we have a couple of major projects that we worked on smart city-wise. One was a broader smart city program that goes across an entire city and includes, as you can see, many different elements. And this was part of, again, another national competition where we helped develop the plan. The plan actually received first place out of 98 cities, and now we're into year 3 of a 4-year plan to implement that smart city implementation. Another one is goes across the city, but it's a little more focused on specific elements. In this case, security and mobility and transportation, and managing congestion incidents, violations for traffic violations, and really focusing in on measuring the outcomes from a mobility perspective, but also the noise and pollution. And that's going through our Smart Cities platform. Involves deployment of many different devices centered within the field, but also a lot of back-end analytics. But the real opportunity and the results that we're seeing is around improved travel information, reduced congestion, lower incident numbers, and of course the environmental benefits from that. A little closer to Brazil, we have a project that we're very proud of that we did in San Pedro Sula in Honduras, where we did the municipal development master plan. So that's a long-term plan. And what was really unique about this plan that is unique to most countries around the world is that the smart city element was a core element or core discussion within the master plan. So all of the different chapters around the mobility and the sustainability and the order, the municipal planning, each of those had a technology element, is how can smart be leveraged within each of the different components. And then we had developed a separate chapter of the municipal development plan that focus specifically on smart cities. So it all ties together. And that's an important part of the whole thinking, because then the use of the technology becomes a culture within the city where everybody's using it, and we don't have these different silos of information and systems taking place. And that's an important element of that. So I talked about the different areas and projects that we worked on. And one of the things that we've learned is that emerging and developing nations have a unique opportunity to do a number of things. And I think you're probably realizing that already with some of the development work that's going on in Brazil. But historically, there's a lower investment in technology and infrastructure that would become throwaway. And it's an opportunity to implement technology throughout communities without throwing away a lot of historical investment. So some of those barriers are down. And because of that, there's an opportunity to implement very quickly. There are also a number of funding opportunities that can be leveraged through the different World Bank opportunities, etc. But maybe most importantly is that we're seeing there's an ability to get some really quick wins that have real measurable results. And those measurable results are what drive the opportunity and really what we're trying to accomplish at the end of the day. So it's easy to generate that momentum and leveraging on that energy within the community. So talking a little bit about the, apologize, my slides are moving too fast. The experience for us in Brazil. It's still early days for us in Brazil, but we're very excited about the progress that we've been making, and I wanted to just share the experiences with everyone here that's looking at investing in Brazil and trying to break into the market, and talk a little bit about the process that we've gone through. When we first started to look at Brazil as a serious opportunity, we looked at alignments to our existing core business that we have well established, and where are there opportunities. So in this case, the road congestion program was an area that we were attracted to and started to work in that area because we have strength on toll roads and congestion management, congestion charging, and those kinds of things. So when we confirmed our interest with Brazil's infrastructure program, we then started to coordinate some specific initial trips to Brazil and participated in trade missions. But maybe most importantly, we really leveraged and engaged in the support from the Canadian Embassy and also with the Canadian Brazil Chamber of Commerce. And we really found that to be very fruitful and very helpful in establishing connections with local partners, clients, and suppliers. And it helped us to really set up our teaming arrangements when we're looking at opportunities, and really was one of the factors for us to win our first project in Belo Horizonte for a transit-oriented development project. And we're really excited about that project because it is about building infrastructure in a smart way in communities that really drives a benefit for the community. So the transit-oriented development project will see some key stations put in around transit nodes, and increasing the overall density and reducing the amount of parking required, and also improving movements for other modes of traffic, which all have the positive benefits for the community. And once we then start to leverage our smart city technologies into that, we feel that will enable us to really start to offer those types of services throughout the entire country. So we're very excited about that, and we're very appreciative of the support that we've had from that perspective as well. So with that, I will wrap it up and wait to the end for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruno, so much for the presentation. It's really great to see Canadian companies tackling those projects in Brazil. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. Marcio is still here with us?
Yes. Of course, I was mute. So Bruno, looking forward to see more of you guys here and continue to do. But we'll go ahead and we'll go to our next speaker. Jason Lee, Program Manager, Advanced Technology Platform at Mars Discovery. Mars is obviously one of the wonders and envies of everybody in research in Brazil. Everybody knows Mars already. So Jason, over to you.
Marcio, thank you for the kind words, and thank you everyone for having me here today. As Marcio mentioned, my name is Jason, and I am one of the program managers here at Mars. So what I do is I lead a lot of the next generation technology platforms and initiatives here at Mars. So quick introduction on who we are and what we do. So we're an innovation hub that's based in Toronto, and essentially we operate similar to an incubator and accelerator, but those aren't sort of the only services that we provide. So we work mainly with startups and scale-ups, but really we tackle the entire innovation supply chain, whether it's public players like government, academia as well as private stakeholders in large corporates. And it allows us to really do a lot of work, whether it's consultation, whether it's advisory and support for anyone sort of in the innovation supply chain. Today I'm here talking about 5G, and I think it's a fascinating topic that's been trending across the world, and we're all wondering how it really affects us. And a lot of the things that is brought up is sort of the higher throughputs, expanded bandwidth, and lower latency, so how you can stream things faster. Well, what's not really talked about is this piece of hyperconnectivity, right? Living in a world where we're able to really access data at a whole new level, to be able to connect all these different things, whether it's in the public realm, such as smart cities context, whether it's a manufacturing setting. I think these are all really, really important things that's really going to change the way we look at doing business and the way we live. And so one of the cool things about 5G is that the ability to guarantee the quality of service for different use cases. So a lot of the times, if you look at our phones right now, all these SIM cards that are involved in our phones are actually being treated the same thing. And so there's going to be new smart cities applications, for example, for if you think about smart buildings, that have different requirements in terms of performance capabilities. And so 5G is able to be flexible to really look at how they can guarantee the quality of service for different applications. Fundamentally different ways of looking at how we consume data, how we look at user authenticity, authentication, as well as security. And more importantly, I think the form factor, when you think about all these devices that we have today, 5G really enables all these new computing paradigms, ability for devices to really shift computing capabilities to the edge, as well as to the central cloud. And so that's really going to fundamentally change how these devices are developed, as well as the sizes and shapes of it. This is sort of the slide that kind of emphasizes my previous points, which is not all 5G is the same, right? You look at massive machine type communications, whether it's lots of IoT devices deployed within a square kilometer, all the way through to ultra reliable and low latency communications. And I think this is important when you look at it from a smart city infrastructure standpoint. We refer to this thing called street level, right? Which is the deployment of all these micro cells, these small antennas, not the ones that we look at installed on top of existing buildings, but things that are really going to be deployed at things right on top of streetlights to provide that kind of capability that I was talking about, whether it's expanded throughput or very, very low levels of latency. And so this is certainly a consideration that municipalities need to make. What I really want to emphasize here is that, we talk about 5G a lot, right? I mean, we hear about how 5G is really going to be that network that's going to power all these new applications, but it's really important to consider the fact that there are other network access protocols that exist today. I'm speaking to all of you right now through Wi-Fi. Most of you are probably doing the same thing. So we hear about Wi-Fi 6, sort of the next generation of that. LoRaWAN, right? So wide area network technologies. In Shanghai, in Tokyo, there's all these cities across the world that are deploying, smart sensors across their cities, whether it's sensors that are measuring water consumption, electricity usage. They can't wait until 5G infrastructure is actually built, right? And I think there are benefits and advantages to different network access protocols. And without going into detail, I think really want to emphasize that a lot of these technologies are really going to coexist in parallel, peacefully moving forward in the future. And depending on the application, there's going to be different preferences that different organizations may have. So globally, where are we with 5G, right? This is as recent as of September 2020. And so when we think about where 5G has been deployed, there are certain areas where we're seeing higher concentrations of deployment of the antennas, as well as the base stations, but also devices, right? So 5G the network is only as good as how many people can actually access it, right? So when you think about cell phones, when you think about different devices that supports the frequencies that's enabled through 5G, it's really important that we look at where are those sort of future market opportunities. And this is fairly up to date. In Canada, we're a little bit slow, but we're certainly launching in as fast as we can over the next few months. So how's Mars working sort of in the 5G domain, right? So basically in 2018, a strategy with the government of Canada, as well as Ontario and Quebec government came together and said, we need a strategy to support our small, medium enterprises. And so we work with Ericsson, Ciena. These are large infrastructure players in the radio access space, as well as the backhaul and mid-haul. We work very closely with Ontario Centers of Excellence to deliver this program. And so we basically established a pre-commercial network. for those of you who are entrepreneurs and you have a device, you have a software application that you want to be able to test on the real 5G network, we're open, right? We're open to supporting any Ontario or Canadian-based companies. And so this has allowed us to really determine what are those future use cases, what are those interesting markets that we're interesting market verticals that we're going to see a lot of uptake in. And so I think when you look at this, graph, it really shows shows the whole picture, right? Not the entire picture, but it really shows the depths of how 5G will actually impact all these new industry verticals, how it will enable the development of new applications. And since this is a smart cities conference, I think you'll be happy to see that a lot of companies are actually identifying themselves as smart cities applications. And so we're certainly seeing a large chunk there. And so what are some of those applications? I mean, this is a list. This is by no means, of course, an exhaustive list, but these are just some examples of companies that we're working with. Grow Ratio, right? These guys create integrated software and hardware for farmers that want to grow indoors, right? To optimize crop yields. This is a company that really says, look, climate change and all these factors such as vulnerabilities in our food supply chain are really impacting the way that we live, right? And so looking at indoor solutions to provide more accessible and sustainable food source for cities is a very important consideration. Iris Go, this is a company that sells directly to municipalities. So they essentially develop a dash cam that can be installed on municipal vehicles, and they can understand and in real time, what are the different road conditions that need to be circulated and what kind of conditions, if there's hazardous conditions that needs to be circulated and fed through to the municipal agencies that are groups that are responsible for taking care of those roads to make sure that they're safe for our cities and citizens. Mero is a company in the smart building space. So again, COVID-19 has really made us a lot more conscious about how clean and sanitized certain areas are. And so these folks have created a very, very cheap, low power consumption battery that can be installed in all these different facilities across the smart buildings. So things like toilet paper rolls, paper towels, soap, as well as hand sanitizers, when they should be replenished, how to optimize the workflows, a lot of the maintenance staff. This is a company that's sort of working in that space. And finally, Influence. This is a company that builds software that can be integrated into legacy camera systems. And these camera systems will now be able to identify all these sort of abnormalities through live video feeds to make sure that, if there's an emergency, if there's something that needs to be brought to the attention of first responders, such as ambulances, as well as firefighters, that can be all relayed to a central system in real time. So again, like no shortage of companies that are doing great work here in Canada. I think when we look at some of the initiatives here in Ontario, what's actually happening, City of Stratford, it's outside of the Greater Toronto area. These folks have since 2016, serious investments into a fiber sort of backbone to provide internet connectivity for small businesses. They also host one of the test beds for companies to test autonomous and connected autonomous vehicles. And earlier I mentioned LoRaWAN deployment, right? This is a very prevalent sort of network access technology. And for them, they were able to deploy all these different devices to help them monitor critical infrastructure like water usage as well as parking, for example. Another one, this is just a little bit, the city of Vaughan, a little bit north of Toronto. And in 2016, these guys have really undertaken a serious project to make sure that people have access to digital services and all the municipal services that are within the city of Vaughan are actually accessible through the web, right? And so some examples: open access to city data, citizen focused transformation of a lot of these administrative processes that really take up a lot of the time of taxpayers as well as a municipal body. At Mars, we've done some work with Waterfront Toronto. So earlier, I think in the presentation, there were some conversations around Sidewalk Labs, which is a sister company of Alphabet, and how they wanted to work with Toronto on a smart cities project. And as great as all these new applications are, 5G, all these new applications, technology, there's going to be the generation of all this new data and all these new endpoints that really need to be encrypted for security purposes. And so having a robust strategy to address data privacy, data security is super, super important, especially if you want to make sure that citizens can, sort of live a certain quality of life without having to worry about hampered sort of data privacy issues, right? And so the result that came out of this project that we did at Mars was to having best practices, guidelines, some strategies for alternative models of engagement and who needs to be involved, etc. Finally, I just want to share some opportunities for any entrepreneurs or anyone that's interested in starting a business, right? So we work very closely, as I mentioned, with Ontario Centers of Excellence, as well as our partners with Ericsson and Sienna. And so we've really sort of amassed this pre-commercial test bed for companies to come in and test, whatever application that you want to, right? And then upcoming in 2021, as you can see here in Durham region, we're going to give that opportunity for companies that are building stuff in smart home, for example, that can be repurposed for regional access services. In the city of Ottawa, we're going to be launching challenges to improve enhanced remote monitoring, whether it's in hospitals or out of hospital care. So I think, lots of opportunities. I'm super proud to be Canadian because as my colleague Bruno earlier mentioned, there's lots of funding opportunities and resources here. So that's this is a QR code for my LinkedIn, a very active LinkedIn if you wanted to connect. But more importantly, you can send me any questions at jasonlee@marsdd.com. Thank you.
All right, Jason, it's safe to say that you lived up to the expectations once more. Thank you. I'm feeling a bit disconnected at this point, but thank you very much. It was great, and we'll definitely touch base with you in different areas as well. Without any other further delays, we are going to invite Rodrigo Cardoso. Rodrigo is the Business Innovation Manager at the Itaipu Technology Park. Itaipu is known for energy generation, so one of the largest water dams in Brazil, in Latin America for that matter.
Sorry to bother you, but I think Rodrigo is, let me check what's happening. Maybe we should go straight to Sescom and then we bring back Rodrigo.
Okay, okay, over to you then.
Yeah, so before Rodrigo speaks on the Itaipu Technological Park, I would like to invite our friends from Sescom Barrio. We have here today Cristina Bueno, Luis de Cessa, and Roberto Lima, who do a quick presentation on some regulatory aspects of smart cities in Brazil, as well as their experience dealing with P3 projects for public lighting and other applications. So without further ado, the mic is yours. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, Carol. Thank you, Marcio, for the invitation. We will talk very briefly about our experience in Brazil with somehow related legal framework related to smart cities, as you'll see, which are still in a very early stages. So just as a matter of introduction, Sescom Barrier is a full-service Brazilian law firm that is celebrating its 20th anniversary in 2021. I am Cristina Bueno. I'm M&A and corporate partner, and I'm here today with my partners Luis de Cessa from technology area and Roberto Lima, who is part of our project and infrastructure team. In terms of the legal framework in Brazil, Brazil is still very much in early stages of having a real structured and clear legal framework to support the establishment and growth of smart cities. However, it is clear that there is a very big will from both the government and the private sector to get things in motion. So you will see that in the letter that was issued on Tuesday by the government. You will see that in the Internet for All program that was launched in 2018. And you can see that also in the Anatel actions in terms of 5G auctions, Wi-Fi 6 discussions, and everything else. So there are things that really are trying to at least establish the basis from a legal perspective for the smart cities to really grow. But we still have a long way to go, especially as it was mentioned before, the government and private relationships and subcontracting and everything else. So we are moving forward, but there is still a long way to go. In terms of what I think was interesting that we thought of sharing with you today was two experiences and two very specific points that I think will help you understand a bit where we stand today. So Luis will share a bit the legal aspects of Internet of Things, so the IoT regulation and how that evolved and where we stand today, together with the data protection law that was enacted and is in full force this year. Roberto will talk a bit about the 3Ps, so the public-private partnerships in terms of public lighting. That I think is the most obvious action that the government has taken, and it's proving to be very, very positive. It's interesting because we participated from both the government side and the private side. So from the government side, we participated in helping the modeling for the cities of Macapá and Teresina, and we assisted also private clients as legal advisors in the bidding processes for the cities of São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Porto Alegre, Angra dos Reis, and Bauru. So we could see from both sides what were the key points that were either opportunities or were real challenges for the things to move forward. I think in terms of the PPP, Roberto will touch upon in more detail, that what we could see from the modeling side is that the government was very hard for them to really understand or know what would be the right model in terms of ancillary revenues and further exploration of the public lighting. At the same time, they didn't regulate it really specifically, but they didn't limit the activity. So they really left it open in a way that will be a case-by-case negotiation and discussion with the governments to really develop it as appropriate city by city. So with that note, I'll just pass along to Luis to talk about the IoT and data protection, and then Roberto will follow up on the PPP.
Thank you, Cristina, for the introduction and for providing us with your initial thoughts on the regulation of IoT in Brazil. As you said, we are in the early stage of having the legal framework, but it is also true that we have several reasons to be optimistic with respect to the IoT market in Brazil. I'm saying that because Brazil is certainly one of the top countries, maybe top 10, certainly top 10 countries with largest online population and time spent on apps, for instance. And it is well known that we are open to try new products, devices, and services. I work a lot with tech startups, and it's widely known that Brazil is always mentioned as one of the key markets to many disruptive business, not only because we have a large population, but also because there's a will to try new products and services. So in this sense, IoT is already a reality here in Brazil. People tend to use it in all available means, let's say cars, wearables, what else? Smart cities, household equipments, everything is now connected in a certain way. And one of the things that has already been mentioned as not very positive for the Brazilian framework is the lack of a specific regulation for IoT. And this is, over the last years, this is being addressed by the government. First, we finally have some guidelines, some specific decrees, data protection law. This is definitely evolving. And now we have at least a minimum framework that offers the protection needed for Brazil to rely on such solutions and finally adopt the smart cities concept. So until 2018, we had only sparse legislation such as the Civil Code, the Consumer Protection Code, the Internet Act. But as I said, recently, now we have a specific law, and it seems that we are in a good path to be a country with sufficient protection to adopt this kind of concept. First of all, we had in 2018, the Internet for All plan. It was a plan of the government aiming at fostering the internet access to communities that don't have enough funds to pay for this kind of service. And then we had in 2019, the National Internet of Things plan being enacted. And this plan is very interesting. They expressly mention the purpose of fostering implementation of IoT as a sustainable development instrument for the Brazilian society capable of increasing competitiveness, strengthen national production chains, promote higher quality of life. It's very broad, what is not so good because it's like more of a principiologic document, but having a specific law, a specific decree addressing this matter means a lot. This document sets out 4 main verticals to Brazil to address, and smart cities is one of them. The others are healthcare, agribusiness, and manufacturing. And this document also defines Anatel, the National Telecommunications Agency, as the agency in charge for regulating and supervising telecommunication networks, machine-to-machine communication systems, all IoT devices that transmit data to any extent. So we have now a formal instrument addressing how Brazil should deal with IoT. Brazil is known, and every time we see that is one of the most promising markets to IoT devices and solutions. So it seems that we're in a good way to make things move as expected. More recently, on October 20, it's like 2 months ago, Anatel approved the reduction of some tax burden to IoT applications. Since then, equipment for IoT communication is exempted from paying telecom levies for a period of 5 years. And some technical barriers to new players were reduced by means of adopting portability obligations to the players. Anatel is expected to provide further guidelines regarding IoT and M2M in a short period of time. So we will have updates in a short period of time. And on top of that, we finally have our data protection law in force. We have been discussing this law for like 8 years now, and it has finally come into effect in 2020. And while this may create more difficulties to IoT app or services providers, it also enables several companies, especially foreign companies, who were not doing business with Brazil because Brazil didn't have a specific data protection law until now. And now they do, we do, and these companies are now once again open to provide this kind of products or solutions to Brazil. So we have this market once again, like ramping up here in Brazil. And we also have a protection for data subjects, such as we as individuals need this kind of protection. I mean, IoT devices, they collect a lot of information. They may have access and they may have knowledge about mostly like everything we do in our day-to-day activities. So having this kind of protection is necessary if we want to have a safe environment for the development of IoT solutions. So as you see, I mean, we have very similar provisions with the GDPR, which is the European law. And I know that Canada you have like the Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Canada, OPC, released on November some recommendations regarding artificial intelligence and also data protection. I don't know how this will evolve in Canada, but it seems that the current framework, it's kind of similar to what we are adopting here in Brazil. So it's not like we're creating anything different from what you are used to. And we are basically inspiring our legislation in the European law. So now we have, I can say, I am comfortable saying that Brazil has sufficient data protection law, that IoT devices are not going to collect everything that they can about us, and we will be subject to what the companies want to do with our information. Now I feel that we are in a safe environment to the development of this market. And if that's true about all the researchers that are popping up saying that Brazil is one of the hottest markets to IoT, I think this is a fantastic environment to investments here in Brazil, to development of new activities here in Brazil. this is what I had to say in a nutshell related to IoT regulation here in Brazil. We expect to have updates very soon, and I will be happy to keep you updated about that. I'll give the word now to Roberto, who can explain more about situations that he has been involved with smart cities, especially.
Thank you very much, Luis. I'll just speak briefly about our experience in the 3P for public lighting. We had initially been involved in the first project modeled by BNDES for the municipality of Teresina. And the issue of the smart cities was one of the topics that entailed a lot of discussions. And the approach taken in that project, and which was very much followed throughout the pipeline of projects that they're helping several municipalities across the country to develop towards smart cities, was basically to create a framework where the concessionaire for the public lighting project would be allowed to develop any project involving smart cities, provided that it was first approved by the municipality, and that part of the revenues from those projects are shared with the municipality up to a limit of 15% in most cases. And there are, as the projects were refined, you have projects like Porto Alegre and Macapá. You also have, details on grace periods without having to pay the municipality until, for the ramp up stage of the projects and that sort of features. So I think the key message here is that these projects are spreading across the country. Not only BNDES is involved in developing these, but you have players like Caixa, and also this initiative has helped form knowledge among consulting firms across the country, which are sometimes rendering services directly to the municipalities, and we have nearly 5,000 municipalities in Brazil. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities to create partnerships with these concessions. And you have different types of players. Some of the players that are getting some of these concessions already have a background in smart cities in other countries where they come from, but some don't. So basically there is this is probably the entry door for the sector here in Brazil. Talking to these concessionaires. That's the essential message, and I'll give the word back to Cristina.
Sure. No, thank you very much. Thank you, Luis. As we mentioned, we only had like 20 minutes, so we really just wanted to give a brief overview of where we stand on the two things that I think really evolved over the past years: IoT, data protections, and PPPs in public lighting. And we are available to respond to any further questions you might have, either through Carol, or you can send an email to us. We had put together 2 slides that Carol can also made available to you with the details on the IoT and data protection information. I think all in all, I just wanted to pass along a good message. I think Brazil waited and took long to start really making the changes, especially from the technology side. But since 2018, we've seen a really big evolution and a really big will from the government to make things moving. And on the concession side, it started with the PPPs in public lighting, but it's also evolving in the sanitation change that we are having today. So I think as a whole, there is a lot of opportunity in Brazil. Doing business in Brazil is getting easier and faster in terms of even corporate or day-to-day management, but also risk assessment. So we are available for whatever you guys need in help. Just brainstorm and understand any specific issues in Brazil, not only related to smart cities, but any other legal matters that you require. So I really thank you again, Carol and Marcio, for the opportunity, and we remain available to help out in anything that you guys need. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Luis and Roberto, for this great presentation. A lot of very interesting information shared here today. And yes, we will share with everyone later the 2 slides that Cristina mentioned, as well as a couple slides on main tips of how to do business in Brazil as well. So if you guys have any questions in terms of legal requirements or cultural differences, or how to access clients, please let us know. We'll be happy to assist you. So now to our last presentation. I know we're running super late, but this is we have another speaker now, that is Rodrigo Cardoso. He is the Business and Innovation Manager at the Itaipu Technologic Park, and he will do a short presentation on the innovation ecosystem that's happening in the south of Brazil, as well as amazing technologies that are coming out of the PTI. So Rodrigo, I think the mic is yours.
Thanks, Carolina. Hello, thanks for the invitation. Let me share my screen. That's okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you seeing? Okay. So I'm Rodrigo Cardoso from Itaipu Tech Park. We are in Foz do Iguaçu, Paraná State, the western region of our state. The presentation isn't showing. Okay. The presentation is in this framework, in these 4 areas. First, I will speak of the region Iguaçu. Foz do Iguaçu, it's a city with 216 people. The western region is with 1,300,000 people. Here is a region with high HDI, and it's a strategic region because it's a triple border between Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina. The economy here, it's based on tourism. Here is the 2nd city of Brazil in international tourists. We have more than 3 million tourists last year. It's a market of over $1 billion a year. We have the economy also based in agro cooperatives. We have big companies here in our region. One of them, the bigger of the world. In the Paraná state, in relation of Brazil, we have 65% of agro cooperatives. We have like half of the cooperatives of the state here in the western region. So the energy, it's very expressive here because of Itaipu. This sector is very important of our economy, not only of the region, but also for the Latin America. Brazil, Paraguay are together in this dam. It's the largest hydroelectric plant yet. Eduardo in the beginning said that wasn't the bigger hydroelectric plant of Brazil, but yet is the bigger in energy production. We have the world record of energy production in 2016, and Itaipu is the owner of Itaipu Tech Park. Here's a picture, the area and the Itaipu also. We have 4 areas focus of actuation of PTI and a business and innovation hub to explore these areas. We have an innovation hub in smart cities to put together actors of the triple helix to some outputs. We aim things like innovative business models, economy expansion, And almost in the end of the list, Smart Cities Tech Hub for Latin America. So our goals are expansion of our actuation, not only of big corporations, but startups and public policy to develop our countries. We have one case that we are doing with the public company of sanitation of our state. We have some problems in our state and Brazil, that is the the great shortage of water supply in last decades, the problem of the sanitation of our country, but our public company of sewage and water supply is doing a beautiful work. It's doing a challenge call for startups solve issues in the sector of sewage and water supply. So we are the operational company chosen to do that call and selection of startups. Here we have a sandbox that is in a program bigger, that is Acelera Foz. It's a program of acceleration of our economy. We have public-private partnerships. We have a decree signing for less bureaucracy. We have a safe environment to validate technology, to quality of life and new business. This is our great goal. Here are some themes, but I think it's not only that. We have this area of a neighborhood here in Foz do Iguaçu. It's a neighborhood who has more than 11 inhabitants. We have some environmental locations. We have a highway in the south limit of this neighborhood. Let me show some. We have a water treatment center. We have a highway. We have an event place with acoustic shell. We have a hospital with high level of quality. A hub market that is under construction, and university. So this is area of sandbox to test technologies, but not also to technologies. Our opportunity, yes, is the smart city market, but it's the innovation hub with high visibility that we want to do corporate venturing, or in other words, to companies or corporates do open innovation to diversify their technologies, by startups doing the usage, the application that can brings the technology to solve important problems of our country, of our countries of our continent. So that's a great opportunity that Itaipu, the greater company of this sector of energy is investing, is putting his name, his contacts. It's like I say, private public partnership. So we have a decree signing, and it's an opportunity to put together great big companies with startups. So the opportunity also is in this hub of smart cities to what technology to be validated and implemented in all cities, beginning here in Foz do Iguaçu, beginning here in Brazil to every city, every street, every house of the world. So for this, I thanks. I stay open for question and contact. Thanks, Carolina, and everyone for your time. Thanks.
Thank you, Rodrigo, for the presentation. This is great to see, again, another example of amazing things that is happening in the Brazilian innovation ecosystem and the tech space, with a lot of opportunities for Canadian companies to establish partnerships and to find partners and find local players that can help them enter the Brazilian market. So we will, I know we're running late, so I would like to, if anyone has any questions, please type on the Q&A box right here. If there's any last questions, then I'll ask Marcio to join me here today to say also a few words about the event. Marcio, are you there?
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, all the speakers. Great presentations. I think we achieved what we wanted, which was to give an idea of what's happening in Brazil and the smart city scenario, as well as what's going on innovation. Just to remind that, the Canadian Consulate, the trade section of the Canadian Consulate in São Paulo, our trade team, the Brazil platform is available, open for you. We have good transit. We are present across Brazil with different offices. So please feel free to contact us if you're interested in the Brazilian market. If you want to continue this discussion, if you want more information, we have a number of experts that can help you to define your strategy to enter the Brazilian market. Thank you again to all.
Thank you, Marcio. Yes, the Trade Commissioner Service of the Canadian Consulate in the Canadian government in Brazil, they offer a lot of support to Canadian companies looking to internationalize. It is a mandate of the Canadian government to help especially small and medium enterprises to find new markets and go global. Canada has trade agreements with 14 different trade agreements with about over 50 countries. So it's a great, they definitely have that as their priority. So if there's any of you have any questions on how to enter the Brazilian market, please feel free to connect with me or Marcio. We'd be happy to help you. So I would like to thank everyone, all the speakers that join us here today, for their invaluable contribution to the event. There's so much good information shared here today. And I'd also like to thank all our partners from Global Affairs Canada, Bill Maqueras, Marcio Francischini, their teams, for all the help and support to bring this event to you. I would also like to say a big thank you to all our sponsors, Vale, EGC, Prima IP, Brookfield, Votorantim Cimentos North America, Samara Cement, Landing Mining, and Sescom Barrio for their continuous support. I hope you were able to enjoy the content and the networking as well. And please know that the networking portal will be open for the registrants for the next 2 months. So you can always go back and have access to the video and the presentations there as well. So we look forward to see you all very soon. I hope you all stay safe, stay healthy, and keep engaging with us as well. And for those that I'm not gonna see anymore, I wish you all very happy holiday season and successful 2021. I hope that this vaccine arrives soon so we're all able to see each other in person very shortly. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Thank you very much, all.
Obrigada. Até mais, gente.
Merci a tous.
Merci a tous.